Television as hopefully a primer for all the other private roads in town. I do want you to be aware of that. When we get into the, some specific questions, I am going to ask you two favors. I'm going to ask you to give me your name, and we can figure out your address from the sign-in sheet. And I'm going to ask you to please bear with me. This time of year, I am a horrible sufferer from allergies, and my ears don't drain well, so I'm having a lot of trouble hearing at times. So if I ask you to speak up or repeat yourself, please, just please bear with me. Okay. Okay. Good evening. My name's Carter Terenzini. I am the town administrator, and I have with me Lori Wida, who is the Board of Health agent and is also the director of what we call the Office of Development Services, which contains the Planning Board as one of the departments that they staff. So thank you very much for taking your time to come here this evening. Great turnout. I do appreciate it. What I want to do is just take a couple of minutes to kind of comment on how we got here, and then truthfully just get straight into questions that you all may have. Laurel Road was, the street itself, proposed on a subdivision plan which the planning board approved. At one point, they did suggest that it be placed upon the town meeting warrant for acceptance. That never went forward as the result of the planning board finding in 2005 that there were a number of issues with the plans as they had been submitted. The issues that they had were laid out for them in some extensive fashion in several letters from the town's law firm at that point in time, Koppelman and Page, and also the town's engineer. So while there was a Board of Selectmen vote to lay out the road, that was never perfected. It was never submitted to the town clerk, and it was never submitted to the town meeting. In the meantime, the town adopted a statute which allows it to plow private roads. That statute is Chapter 46C. It allows the town to plow and to treat snow and ice. It does not allow the town to do anything beyond that. In fact, it doesn't even allow the town to pick up the sand that it may put down in the wintertime during its snow and ice operations. When I got here 2 years ago, I heard a little bit about the street, but I wasn't given any instruction by the select board as to what to do. Unfortunately, for two streets in town, Alan Mayo resigned his position as DPW director. And I became the acting or interim DPW director during the period of time it was going to take us to sort out how best to proceed, advertise for, and recruit a new director. More unfortunately, I have a fairly lockstep, rigid approach to management and administration. And at the end of every plowing season, I sit with the DPW director, in this case that was me, and the highway foreman, and I ask him to talk to me about the toughest roads that he plows, unaccepted roads, the condition that they're in, and to tell me about the roads that, in his opinion, have deteriorated to a point where they pose a danger to the equipment and to the operators. He gave me 2 streets, and from you being here tonight, you've obviously received the letter that was sent out to everybody. These are called red list letters. They generally go out every year to different streets around Memorial Day, and then we set some timelines for potential improvements that need to be made. There are a number of different ways to proceed in the long term, if you are interested, but there are very few ways to proceed in the short term. Unfortunately, as you know, and excuse me, sorry. As you enter the roadway, there are a number of failed areas. There are about 6 structures which are actually above the pavement. And one of those structures, as I said, is failing. It's, I'm not sure I'd put it in the classification of sinkhole, but it's starting to develop there. It's the first drainage structure in the center, about 125 feet into the roadway. There are some severe deteriorated areas around number 111 and number 124, and then the intersection at the circle. The biggest risk to the equipment is the raised structures and the one that is potentially failing. Many others could perhaps be filled with cold patch or saw cut and removed and patched in. I don't know, when you came into Town Hall, you'll see a little patch that was done out there. We had it saw cut, we had it removed, and we put in 3 inches of new material. There is no short, easy way for the town to assist you with those repairs. There is a section of statute, Chapter 46N, I believe I've provided this to some of the folks that have been working on your behalf, which allows the town to adopt a bylaw. And under that bylaw, it can make temporary improvements on private ways. The challenge are twofold. The first is that the earliest we could present that bylaw would be the fall, October 18th. And they are not effective until after the Attorney General has reviewed them and approved them. And unfortunately is a 60-day window generally. The second problem is the town needs to have the money. No great secret to you that the town does not have a lot of extra cash. So the earliest that could be of assistance is most likely next summer. The second way that the town could proceed with the road is if you wanted a full betterment and for it to be accepted. That starts with an actual survey. One of the challenges, I don't know, there were 2 folks, I recognize one. There was another one I spoke with that has been working on this, and I don't recognize her in the audience here tonight. The survey starts because there are several parcels that it appears are actually still in the laid out right-of-way. I don't know how that happened. I honestly can't tell you. That also is a long process, and the soonest.
What did you just say about those 2 properties?
There appear to be 2 properties, if I read the legal analysis correctly, that actually own land within what should have been the right-of-way. So if the right-of-way stops here, let's say, the parcel actually comes out, according to the legal analysis of 05, partly into the roadway. So in any event, this all starts with a. What it means is that person would have had to have been willing back then to give up part of their land.
Eminent domain doesn't exist?
Well, let me do this. Let me
No.
just finish, and then we'll take all the questions one at one. I'm just gonna start, work my way around. Once everybody's had a chance, we'll do it again. And I'm willing to stay here as long as you'd like, as long as we're, getting new questions out and hopefully new answers that make sense to you. So the betterment process is actually closer to a 3-year process by the time you do all of the survey work and land issues, then a redesign of the road. It appears that the road is failing in a number of areas. Something happens when the drainage structures stay where they were built and the road is 6 inches lower. It's not everywhere, but if you drive the full circle, you'll see it. About 15 of those structures have either dropped or the road has dropped around them. So there are a couple things that can be done in the long term, and I'm more than happy to work with you on those and talk about potential funding and some other things. But in the short term, there need to be some short-term repairs to the road such that the plows can glide over those structures safely without catching them, without an edge of a plow hitting straight on or hitting on a corner. So thank you for your patience as we went through that. And now what I'd like to do is just start with questions in the back. The gentleman next to Steve, did you have anything, sir?
Well,
Could you do me a favor, please? It'll help me out a lot. If you could just stand up and give us your name, please.
my name is Ernst Bazura River, and my first question is regarding the taxes that we actually pay.
Hmm?
So if you don't pick up the trash, you don't clean up the road, so what are we paying taxes for?
Nothing, right?
Yeah,
Well,
we
that's-
have
Sewer,
We have sewer, we have our own water.
I
So-
pay for my own street line.
I'm gonna ask you to please do me a favor, don't all pile in. It's difficult in general to work through that, and it really does make it very, and I may use the ears as a crutch more than you'd like, but it makes it very difficult for me to hear. So, let me say that I will get an explanation for you all in writing from Luann Roy, who's the assessor. And whether it's accepted or unaccepted and how that impacts market value, it's all cranked in there. Because you do get all of the other services. You get the fire, you get police, you get the schools, you get everything else there the same as anyone else. But I will ask Luann to put together a little, FAQ sheet and try to have that out to you within 2 weeks.
And just one follow-up question. So if we don't do anything, and you guys don't do anything, the road are not clean, we don't get fired, because nobody would be able to come and help.
No ambulance,
You get nothing.
no tax rates, no
If
ambulance.
nothing
Yeah, we
is
pay for
done
that.
Yeah, if there's no
to improve the situation, no, you would not get plowed this winter. You would be, you would be the same, ma'am, please. Ma'am, I'll be more than happy to answer as many questions as you want to ask when we get round to you, okay? Thank you.
Can I
Please.
piggyback up to his tax question, please?
Sure, we'll go a little bit out of order here to try to accommodate this. Yes, sir.
Again, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but why don't we start with the author of we're trying to get this, obviously, you know that this is a heated subject. This is not very pleasant at all, okay? And we really need to start at the center of the stage, where Jim actually wrote a very good letter to you people. I really think that we should start there, rather than a random question through the back row, because you're not afraid of our questions. I think really we need to get to the heart of the matter, because I think as a neighborhood, we do have a leg to stand on. And I think we should start with that leg to stand on, and then you can defend whether or not we deserve that leg to stand on.
Is that agreeable to everybody?
Yes.
Jim, you
Yeah, I'm just, the tax thing though.
appear to have been appointed
Like,
spokesperson for the
I've
moment.
called about my assessment on my house and explained that, because of the condition of the road, there's no way it's anywhere near market value. And I essentially was laughed at I said, this is how we do it. So regardless of whether your road is passable or impassable, it's compared to homes in town that sell at a particular price. So our valuations are way higher than they should be, given the fact that the road is going to be impassable if nothing's done. And therefore, we're paying extra. We're subsidizing repairs in town with our taxes, and getting nothing else in return. Yes, they plow in sand, but then again, they leave all the sand in the road when the season's done, and it looks like, you know, I don't know. It looks terrible. And obviously, I know the plows have caused some damage because of the condition of the road and it feeds on itself, but we're getting nothing for our taxes, except for schools, you know? And that's
No
it.
schools, no plow.
Well, yeah, I guess.
They stay home.
But all I'm saying is our assessments are way higher, and it's been that way for several years now. And we're paying extra on our taxes, and we can't even get some sort of an abatement, and we can't even put any of that money toward repairs on the roads or anything. And we're just looking for some relief, I think, on that.
I'll speak to Luann and I'll put something together. You're, on that boat, you're in the same assessment position as every other private road in town, I'm afraid. Okay, but I will get you an answer from that, and maybe I'll get it out in the mail, and if it seems worthwhile, I'll do a second round of this, okay? Sir?
Okay. Steve Banville, 58 Laurel View. I moved into the neighborhood in 2001. In 2005, as you mentioned, the planning board and the board of select signed off on our road. Whether or not that final step was taken remains to be explained or whatever. This has been going on long before you got here. The rumors about our road, and what I heard about the town plowing it because of a courtesy, you know what, these were just built in to protect themselves against what they didn't want to do. Our road was, the sign was changed from a private way to a public way in 2005. They accepted our road. The rumors of laying logs down and paving over them and from Mr. Stewart or whatever, it is just crazy. This just did not happen.
Can you help, my apologies for interrupting you, but can you help me understand who Mr. Stewart is? I certainly know what a corduroy road is.
Smart, oh, that's what it was, Mr. Smart had made the comment, and it was in the paper. You know, that they had, you know, laid logs down and they stumps.
Debris.
And that's just not true. The town does not plow for a courtesy. They never have and never will, okay? This road really was in fine shape, and had the town not taken just a little bit of time to take a few holes and fill them, it would have been fine for the plows, sir. I'm telling you, this has gone on for too long. We need to get this fixed. Now, you know, if you think that we have a dump truck that we're gonna go pick up maybe some supplies that are supplied by the town, if the town is gracious enough to do that for us, and we distribute it ourselves, you're out of your mind. You know, this really has to get to the bottom, because our road that we paid 27 houses, it was accepted. That last step wasn't taken, so it isn't on the books. That's wrong, sir. Okay, and you know, in the highway department and everything else, you know, with Mr. Mayo, I don't want to get into all of that. He just took off, didn't he? He went to Westminster for another cemetery job. You know, you should have kept Bud Chase. At least he knows how to run a road. You know, this is crazy, and I've watched it. I live here, and you know, that's really what I have to say, sir, because we deserve help. We pay our taxes. We are self-sufficient. We don't have any sewer. We don't have any water. We pay our bills to the municipal light company. You know, and we're getting nothing? Yes, we get services for schools and stuff like that, but you know what? Not all of these people have children. And not all of that money, you know what? We talk about, I have you know, 3 trailers and, sorry, first world problem, 3 cars that I pay excise tax on. But you know what? None of that money goes to where it's supposed to go, to my road. I pay it every single year. We call it the book, and we get it every spring. You know, all due respect, you know, you've been here 2 years, I understand. They can't even get your replacement right. You know, they can't hire somebody that was more than willing to come in and come in and do the job. What the problem was, I'm not really sure, because personally, I don't go to every meeting. But this is crazy. You know, this town is infamous for nepotism and favoritism for the companies that are here in the town, and we don't get a fair shake.
Marie has stuff to
I just want to add.
I really needed to stand up and say that.
That's okay.
You know, this is crazy. You know,
That's-
it really
that's
is, and it really shouldn't have even come to that, because it could have taken just minimal effort to keep that road up, and nobody ever did. Please, I mean,
Let me,
talk to my neighbors.
I just want to add a comment.
you know, what I'd really like to do, because we're gonna get off way too easily, I'd really like to try to stick with, let folks ask their questions or make their statements, try to keep in the back of your mind what your question was, let me address them, and then we'll come back around, okay?
Okay,
I really don't wanna be
question is,
popping all
What
over.
happened to that 2005 verdict where we didn't, the final step wasn't taken? Thank you. That's what I wanna know.
What happened was a analysis by the town's engineer, and then several lengthy legal opinions from the town's legal counsel at the time, Koppelman and Page, which cited numerous flaws in the process. And there was some money put forward for survey, there was some different suggestions made, and quite frankly, nobody followed up.
Lori's active, she's got her hand
Nobody-
up, she's very good.
Nobody, I will say then that nobody on the town side followed up. Because there are potentially,
The residents be responsible.
And we were notified. That's all right.
the town even relinquished the bond from the developer on the road.
Again, how come nobody told us?
So that's why we're here, okay?
Excuse me.
Second, no, sir, no, sir. Sir, no.
Okay, well, we'll
I'm-
wait.
I'm-
It's all a bunch of lies, okay?
Well, I'm sorry if you feel that we're lying to you,
Yes,
because
you are.
I'm working with the files that I have, sir. And you'll have an opportunity here shortly. With respect to the courtesy, the town adopted the statutes, chapter 40, section 6C, which allows it, subject to appropriation and approval by the select board, to plow certain roads. That's no great courtesy. Any private road in town can come in and ask to be done that. That's done with the tax dollars.
What
We
year
didn't
did
get
that?
it. Who asked?
No, wait, what year did they, can you tell me what year that?
I'll have to go back
adopted?
and look, but I will. We'll
Right.
pull that for you.
Please,
Sure.
thank you.
Sure, and we'll send out a packet with the actual
Okay, yeah, as
statute.
long as we know what year.
Sure. Okay. On the Corduroy Road, no, I don't believe it's Corduroy Road. I do believe it wasn't built to best standard. And I believe that the collapse of the road in numerous areas shows that. Ma'am, did you have anything?
No, it's still going along the back road.
Sir? You don't have to ask a question when I get to you, but I'm gonna go in a pattern, and then I'll go back around again. So, ma'am, I see you as the first hand?
Can I just make a suggestion?
Sure,
Oh, Shelley Saunders, Laurel View Road.
thanks.
Dry, actually, technically, it's drive, not road. It changed AKA.
Yes.
Can we just raise your hand and try to all stay within, and be nice? But, I mean, Lori's been working her butt off on this, to where most of us haven't, so going like this
Sure.
is wasting our
If
time,
that's
so just
agreeable- if
raise your
that's-
hand and
If
then
that's
go person
agreeable
to
with
person.
people, absolutely, I
Yes.
just wanna try to
Thank you.
keep some sense of order to it.
That's why I
Yeah,
asked.
well,
Lori,
if
you
we
are
go towards
spokesperson number
the
2.
front.
Thank you. First off, Laurel View was never intended to be a private road. Second, back in 2002, there's a letter from Sarah Campbell, who is a consulting civil engineer, who had a letter to the planning board that states that there are problems with Laurel View Road that needed to be addressed. Why they weren't addressed and fixed at that point in 2002, I have no idea. She states that there's $10,000 remaining in an account to complete the project, and she says it's going to be over that amount to fix the problems and also to do the as-built plans, etc. That was 2002. The planning board twice brought it to the selectmen for approval for the town meetings, the warrants. Once in '04, once in '05, once in '06. In '05, once in '04, Conrad Donnell signed off to the planning board the subdivision. It no longer belongs to Conrad Donnell, it belongs to the town and the planning board. It doesn't belong to Laurel View residents, it was to the planning board. And like I said, it was never supposed to be a private way. In the paperwork that Conrad Donnell signed, it said he's signing it off because the town is going to accept the road. That's what it says in the paperwork, which I have a copy of, and I'm sure you have it in your copy. And then again, in '05, for the warrant, it says they're going to accept the road. But again, it doesn't go to town meeting. In '06, they go again, they're gonna take it to warrant. But again, it doesn't go. In '06, they have a meeting with the planning board, and they can't come up with a resolution on what to do with our road because they've exhausted all the money. Because there's so many issues in '06, but in '02, the engineer said that there were problems that needed to be fixed, but nobody did anything. How is that our problem? And nobody told us that there was a problem? None of us got a letter saying any of this was a problem. I have pins in my sidewalk, as do the rest of the residents, stating it's already been surveyed. You said that we're gonna have to do a survey to have a betterment. We've already had it surveyed by Ed Boucher. He's done the survey, he's done the as-built plans, that's all been done. We don't need another survey. If you look at Ed Boucher's work, he's done all of it. He's done all the title searches, he's done the surveys, everything's been done. What the hell's the problem? It's not our road, obviously. It's the town's road because it was signed over to the town. It's not our problem.
Yeah, there you go.
Unfortunately, from a legal standpoint, the developer signing something and turning it over to the town doesn't make it so. For any of you who were at the annual town meeting, there's a warrant article
Yes.
which approved the acceptance of a private road. Before going into that, I had had the survey, all of the properties vetted by town council, the deeds had all been prepared, and then the road was, all the paperwork was executed after the town meeting. I will tell you what I can do and what I will do. I will make up a packet of this mess. I will send it to town council, and I will ask him, given the actions of the planning board at some points along the timeline, what, if any, liability does he feel the town has? I'll start by doing that. That's the best I can do.
Can I ask why that wasn't done prior to all this? Why was it just dumped on us and said, you own the road and now we're not gonna plow you and you're gonna have to fix it all? Why wasn't this office ever looked into the history? And I know you've only been here for 2 years.
Exactly.
And there are people on the planning board who have been on it for years.
Exactly.
And they just wanna deny that anything ever happened because they're the ones that did it.
The letter to town council, quite frankly, is a Hail Mary. I know with some 90% certainty what he's gonna tell me. However, this is very important to you. You've spent time on it. I can see you're all very passionate about it, and I think it's the least that I can do in the short term.
So if we had our own lawyer and brought him to you,
No, ma'am. The only lawyer whose legal advice I follow is town council's.
okay.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is, if we brought you to court to fight this, and we won,
But you wouldn't, ma'am.
Oh, Lori, I say we take that bet.
I'll take that bet.
I'll take that challenge any day.
I'm sorry.
really?
Really, ma'am. But I am willing to put the package together and to send it along to town council and ask him to review it. Before we go back to going around, is there a third spokesman that someone wants to nominate? Okay.
I think I was the one that was working with you, but you didn't see me. So you don't think why do you think if we get a lawyer and we sue the town, why don't you think we'd win? Because I have a hard time believing a jury would hear all the facts that Lori just told you and say, oh, no, the town's right.
Because the case law is pretty straightforward on the steps to have a roadway accepted.
Only by recent warrants, correct? Only by recent laws, only by recent stuff. You just spoke of a neighborhood that you had to go see personally. That's within the 2 years. This does not apply to something that was 15 years ago.
Actually, I won't bore you with it, but there's two very excellent articles available on the web. I'll try to, one's F. Sidney Smithers out of Pittsfield, and I forget the other name. I'll try to send that along for you for some reading.
Started to continue my thing too. How is it that the town of Templeton maintained our road beyond plowing and sanding? I'm talking about cleaning catch basins, I'm talking about filling potholes. For over a decade, they did that.
They clean the sand off every year up until the last 2 years.
That's correct.
It's
This
just
should have been
courtesy.
brushed.
This is
the
first year that gets
Because when the sign was changed from Laurelview Drive, and it went down, it came up, it was Laurelview Drive private way, and then it went down,
Yep. So
and
we
it
hit
came up to Laurelview Road without the private way.
Right.
And we had full 100%, if anybody would agree, but over
Yes.
a
Oh, yeah.
decade,
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is coincidentally
You
2
know-
months after I bought
And the
my
town
house,
did
so I
that.
never even knew.
yeah. The town did all of that work. I could call and have a pothole fill, and I have, right at the end of my road, and they would be out there within the same day. That's more than courtesy, that's acceptance. The department knew, and I just feel as if now that the repairs have gone above a certain cost, the town is saying, oh, hands off, it's not ours. It's not
It's like
ours, this
playing
was
peekaboo
yours.
with a 2-year-old.
And Lori's research is hard facts. The planning board accepted the road unanimously, not once, but twice.
Period.
The Board of Selectmen
selectmen did.
accepted the road for assessment. Now, you keep talking about warrant, and I think that warrant is just a formality, because basically, I don't think people in East Templeton give a rat's ass about Laurelview, if it's accepted or not. So I think if the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board accepted the road, and they found out afterwards that there were problems, and sat on it,
That isn't our fault.
That's not our
that
problem.
is their responsibility and their ownership.
Let me respond to a couple of things. First, boards of selectmen and planning boards do not accept roads. They have no legal authority to do that.
You said they did. You just said
The
they did.
select board,
3-4
the
times.
select board's authority is to lay out a road, and they will do that upon the recommendation of the planning board. And the selectman's authority is to place an article on the warrant for action by the town meeting. That's all they can do. It is the town meeting that is the ultimate decider on this, because they are the legislative body. Now, let me address the maintenance, and let me try to figure out, since this is recorded, how I can say it politely. The maintenance of the road was illegal.
And that's our fault.
The maintenance,
Can you say that just a tad louder, please?
the maintenance of the road by the town was illegal. They had no authority, statutory or otherwise, to do it.
For over a decade.
For a week, for a year, for a decade.
All right, so I bought
Now,
my house in
if-
1995, and Conrad always plowed, always. We had, and you can call Tom Dow, because he actually plowed it, and he would do one swoop, and that was it. We all were used to the one pass, we didn't mind. And then all of a sudden, hand in hand, he stops plowing, I go from Laurel View Drive, private way, to Laurel View Road, and now the town is on my road. It can't just be a coincidence, sir. Someone in this town dropped the ball, and we're not here to pick up their mess.
You're dumping it on us.
You're
though.
here.
Like, it's not fair. If you lived where we lived, you would be sitting right here as we are. I've been there for 23 years.
I probably would. I mean, my only real acquaintance with private roads is showing my wife a house on one, and having,
Ran away.
and
Well, I can
having,
tell you
and
after
having her
this-
tell me to never drive her down an unaccepted road again because of the condition it was. And right now, I'm very lucky. I live in an association where the association doesn't. So we will look into what time frame the town provided some maintenance services, and I'll add that to the letter to town council to determine if that created any exposure. Now, why did it change? Since coming here, I have tried to follow the statutes. I don't do something if statute doesn't allow it, or if there isn't a policy that provides for it. When we manage organizations like this, we are supposed to follow the rules. They're laid out in statute, in bylaw, and in policy. And I'm afraid that that if something is illegal, I can't do it. I won't do it. And so I don't know when they stopped doing whatever they did, but I can tell you that there are a number of things in town where I just kind of walk around shaking my head of, I'm gonna stop there because I don't know how else to say it. And I don't want to offend, not you all, but folks that might be watching. The town needs to do a better job of understanding and following the statutes and the lawful procedures.
But they failed us. They didn't take that last step. Why didn't it make it to the warrant? That's the question. That's the fairest thing that should be done, sir.
And if it didn't, then why didn't they
And
tell
why
us?
didn't it? And why weren't we notified of the whole thing? That's what's wrong. The town failed us. The town did not do its job, sir.
We were all under the impression.
That's
that
right.
it
That
was
sign went down, that sign went up.
It did.
That was our confirmation.
Exactly, that it was soundproof.
And I'll live by that, I'll die by that. That's absolutely the truth. And they continue to service it they trim the bushes. They're not
Exactly.
trimming the bushes anymore.
They picked up the sand last summer.
Yeah.
I'm looking at several letters from the town's council which clearly lay out the problems with trying to do an acceptance. Why somebody didn't follow up, I don't know, but I will take another run at trying to sort it out. Lori and
So
I
we
have,
must have some kind of recourse, and you're telling us we're gonna fail even before we start?
that's my prediction, but I will go by what town council advises.
So really, you're deciding this.
That's right. What makes it in the van? Exactly, exactly. You're right. You're right. He's making decisions ahead of time.
As to whether or not a road should be red listed, I am making that decision, yes. There are two, there's you, and there's another road. And I make that decision based upon the recommendation of the highway crew as to whether or not a road poses a danger to the equipment and to the staff. So that is my job.
Technically, your equipment, who is illegally on my road, partially caused some of that damage, so shouldn't you be held responsible for placing your equipment illegally on my road? Just
Equipment is
ask.
not illegally under your road, on your road. Chapter 40, Section C was accepted by the town, and it allows the town, under certain conditions,
town road.
to
But
go
it's not
plow
the-
the roads. It's an interesting point of view. I will include it in the letter to the lawyer.
Stated it was illegal
Thank
for them
you.
to be on the road.
Yeah.
Doing maintenance. Once they accepted this statute, it was no longer illegal. If they plowed before the date of this acceptance, then that also was illegal. But we're gonna get the date of this acceptance for the young lady next to you.
3 years ago, 3 years ago, they fixed the first 100 feet of the road,
Yes.
Leftover material.
leftover material.
Yeah.
Whether or not that section that they fixed is failing. There's a big sinkhole under that ground that's gonna fall through. It's where the town fixed.
When they were resurfacing Baldwinville Road.
Yep. Because
Or,
of Cook
excuse
Pond
me,
Estates
Hubbardston
and all
Road.
that.
Hubbardston Road.
Folks, please. Seriously, I can't understand three of you at once. And I think you're all giving me some good information to consider. I gotta ask you, please, just one at a time. So this was when what road was being,
Hubbardston Road was repaved.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Hubbardston Road?
Yeah.
Now, somebody else shouted out Baldwinville Road.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was Hubbardston Road, is
Yeah.
when they were doing
Hubbardston
it.
Road,
They did
okay.
Hubbardston Road. They did the end of our road,
Mhm.
50 to 100 feet in, tore it up, repaved it, fixed the whole thing. That's failing. You guys did it.
Do you recall what kind of material they used, sir? Was it the millings off the road, or was it new,
No,
fresh?
No, it was fresh
Fresh
from
on top.
asphalt from,
Okay.
this
It was from the Cook Pond Estate project that they had to fix the sewer line, so they did half the road on
Good
Hubbardston
information.
Road. And they used the leftover material and they put it in Laurelview.
the town can't set a precedence of maintaining the road and then decide one day, oh, well, now it's gone beyond our repair, we don't wanna touch it
To be
anymore.
honest with you, that thought of them putting that pavement down would have been a simple fix to go continue throughout.
Mhm.
Because that worked for a little while, for sure, you know? And if that courtesy could have gone around.
The
that could have
road, the
solved a lot
road
of
is
problems.
actually the relatively easier part of the problem. It's the structures themselves that are the harder part, because they've stayed put while the road around it has collapsed in numerous places.
Yeah, and one of those structures that's high is where they already repaired once.
And this is good information, and I will include it in the letter to council.
Now, you talked earlier about the assessed
Could you
value.
do me a favor?
You talked earlier about the assessed value of those houses being rezonable, and talking about the resale value of those houses. But nobody in their right mind will ever buy any house there if the roads are like that. I mean, I don't think I will go buy. If I'm coming in this street to buy a house and it's like that, I will never buy it.
You've talked with my wife.
I will never buy it. Nobody will ever buy those houses the way they are. I mean, nobody else.
We can't give ours.
It's a challenge, and it's
Buy
a,
them.
I don't know if I've seen his driveway, because I don't know what number he's at. What number is he at?
124.
I have seen his driveway. Yes, ma'am.
I live at 106 Laurel View. My name is Jennifer Lambert. I live directly across the street from a brand-new house that they're building on that lot. Last lot sold, from what I've understood. And it's a beautiful house that they're building, and apparently it's going listed for close to $300,000. And when I bought my house 5 years ago, I was not led to believe that this was a private road, and I didn't know about all the problems. And I can guarantee you that they're not going to tell these new buyers, they're gonna see the road obviously, and it's gonna become an issue, but they're probably not gonna tell any potential buyers about the private versus public, what's going on with this town and with the road. So when you mentioned, people coming in and wanting to buy a house on this road, you have new people coming in, possibly coming into town, wanting to look at this beautiful home, and possibly moving into Templeton. This area is growing. And we're building a brand new elementary school. So I just see this whole area just getting bigger as the 5 years that I've been here. And we can't even repair one road. It's embarrassing. My son's friends come down, and it's, my friends come down, and it's humiliating just to see this road in the condition it is, and it's.
You need four-wheel drive to get up that road sometimes.
Sometimes.
Especially in the wintertime if they don't plow it.
Mhm.
You can't even drive down that
It's
road.
not just the equipment that's gonna get damaged on the street. My sister lives in Denver, she came to visit me last year with a rental car and wrecked it because I forgot to tell her to avoid the bomb crater at the top of the hill.
We've already had tires blown out.
I mean, when we got people coming to see us that have never been up there before, we have to sit there and tell them, watch out for the street, because if they come up that street and go into that hole, they're ruining their car. She wrecked the rental car.
Oh, but
'cause
if
she
you
didn't
fix
know
it,
that
then
the
you
road
own
was
it,
like that.
and if you own it, we're not gonna do anything
You're worried
about
about your
it. That's what
equipment
we're being
and
told,
your operators. What about our equipment, our cars, and
Right, we
our
gotta
health,
drive over it every
and our
day.
kids that could fall into that sinkhole?
Driving on
We're waiting
the
at the
sidewalk.
bus stop every morning, we're worried about our kids.
Yeah,
We're
we
worried
drove on the
about our
sidewalk all
families
winter.
in our cars. What if that thing opens up all of a sudden, God forbid? That's my concern. I took a picture of that thing, it's getting bigger.
Are we talking about the same one, about 125 feet in or
Yes,
so?
it's growing. I'm up there every morning and most afternoons picking up my grandson, and it's growing.
The water was going right down today when I left my house.
Exactly, yeah,
There was a river going right in the hole.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that you represent the financial interests of the town, and ultimately, this whole road situation's come down to money. The reason why it never got, put on a town meeting warrant, and it's clear to everybody, obviously, no one will say it, but the only reason it was never put on a town meeting warrant is because that's another road for the town to be financially responsible for. And if there's anything this town is famous for, it's for pinching pennies. Gladly taking our tax money and using it for other things, but not for the actual roads. And the thing I hear all the time, and I've seen it in articles in the Gardner News and other places, about how the road's failing because of improper construction. The base wasn't properly prepared before they paved it. Well, who was responsible for overseeing all of that? Wasn't it the town's responsibility every
Yes,
step of
sir.
the way as the road was built?
It should be
As they were
inspected.
issuing permits for
Yes,
new
sir.
construction? So I know that there's a liability issue involved here, and there's also a constitutional issue involved here too, because it's called equal protection under the law. We're taxpayers, and we're not receiving equal protection from the town, period. Guess I had a pen there.
Going back to what Mrs. Lambert said, the house across the street from her, that's.
This one that sits down a little bit of
Yeah.
the hollow, about
Yeah.
2/3 of the way around the circle there.
Yep. Actually, I have, information from one of Sarah Campbell's letters that says that was a drainage lot. I'm just wondering why that's actually being built upon.
But I was concerned about that too, because it's totally wet right behind that house.
But anyway, I was
Unbuildable.
also told that, the man that's owns the property, who's building the house, may, want to fix the road because he is selling the property. Have you heard or talked to this man?
I've heard a rumor, and I don't want to say from whom, that the gentleman has indicated he might make some repairs.
Thanks for the transparency.
Because he understands the way it's gonna make the house present. How extensive those are gonna be, I don't know. We can certainly reach out to him. I would tell you that, if I was him, I certainly wouldn't do it till I was done moving trucks in and out of there.
Right.
But we'll reach out to him and ask him what his intent is. We've got his contact information from the building permit.
Also, there was money left over from when, Mr. Donnell had put money aside for the subdivision. I wanna say, I don't know the exact amount, like maybe $1,200 or something. That came up during the, audit in 2016. And that was, voted by the selectmen to put into the general fund in September of 16. If that was money that was for our development, then why was it returned to a general fund for the town?
Because that's the law.
Well, why wasn't anybody in our development told that this money was put aside for us?
That's the law, to take money that's set aside for a private road.
Once the
To go-
once the development is all closed out, and it has not
But it
been,
hasn't been closed out.
the developer's long gone. That's the law, it transfers to the town.
Wow.
about throwing it in the Laurel View Road?
Right. I mean, cause no,
That bylaw
I've
went
already
through
filled
in
one hole,
2016.
Lori and I have already filled one. I mean, come on, you can't really expect us to go full toll and keep patching when it's really the town's fault, cause someone there dropped the ball
Continuously.
and realized, oh, we messed up.
And it's costing too much.
And at
We
this
don't have the
point,
money.
it's way too much. So let's not make it our problem, let's make it Laurel View's problem, but let's not tell the residents until it's a huge problem.
Exactly.
That's not fair. Had you told us 10 years ago, we as the neighborhood could have got together and said, okay, let's patch this little one, let's kind of do this. But sir, you've been on our road, I'm hoping you've drove my road. And when you do, come in towards my house and not down towards Mrs. Fay's house, because it'll swallow your car.
I drove it a couple weeks ago, and then I drove it today, so I'd have a better sense of exactly where things were and how extensive they were.
Like, we should not be liable because the town, someone in this town again, dropped the ball. That's not okay.
I hear what you're saying, and we'll put this package together and we'll see how town council reacts. Yes, sir.
How long is that gonna
Excuse
take?
me, your name, please?
Brendan, my name's Brendan Bennett.
Thank
I
you,
live on
Brendan.
30 Laurel View Road. How long is that gonna take?
Truthfully, it's probably gonna take me upwards of 3 weeks to put the package together in some lockstep. And, I've got a little bit of information here I wanna try to check, see if I can find anything in the highway records on. Town council's usually pretty good. I will tell them, ask for an answer back within 2 weeks. So I think we're looking at probably 1 August, before I can let you know how that comes out. And I will share what I can share, because I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, my job is to defend the town.
So what's that gonna do for us as far as, Labor Day? You gave us a
October 1st, you gave us.
October 1st as a deadline for
Yeah.
us to get this road done.
Well, we'll have to sort something out to try to be of some assistance in some fashion. I just can't tell you better right now what that means. There must be somehow some measure of repairs, and my primary concern is the structures. The others, we can plow over the top of it, or it can be filled with ledge pack, something else can be done. But it's the raised and collapsed structures. There are 2 structures that have actually sunk a little bit. The others are raised. Can they be patched enough so they can be glided over? I don't know. Once I get the package together off the town council, I'll come back out with the highway foreman and see if there are some low-cost fixes that could maybe buy us some time.
Who would be responsible for the low-cost fixes?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Who would be responsible for the low-cost fixes?
Well, unless I can find some legal justification for the town participating in those, and then find the monies to do it.
We have $1,200 in an account someplace.
You may have, that's an interesting point, and I'm sure that Lori's marked it down, and we will, we'll raise it with council.
And the town has the history of making repairs.
And there is, I mean, there's processes, there's regrind, there's a whole bunch of stuff to bring stuff up to level. I mean, and you are no more a highway superintendent than I am, but there are reasonable fixes
Well,
that can be fixed.
Having built 1,200 units of housing and a couple hundred miles of roadway, reviewing those plans and drawings for both the city of Pittsfield, with 52,000 people in my job there, and with the state, I do have some familiarity with some of this. I'm not saying it's better than yours, but I'm not going from accounting to trying to pay some attention to this. I do have some passing familiarity with this, sir. Yes.
Hi, Ryan Whitcomb, 35. I was lucky enough to buy my house about maybe a couple of months after the Laurel View Drive sign came down and the Laurel View Road sign went up. So 13 years and never had any idea that it was a private road. So it's interesting to learn of all this information. With the town having taken care of it so well over the last several years, as far as plowing, sanding, picking up sand, trimming back brush, making repairs on the road, which you have stated was illegal. I'm curious how I would know that it was a private way or that it needed to have repairs done to it. And if you're gonna red list it this year, giving us a matter of months to fix it, and you've been on the job for 2 years, did those raised structures happen in the past year? Or should we have received some kind of notification prior to that so that we could start doing some work?
Lori's gonna need to leave us. She has another meeting that started, but if you can pass me you've been doing a great job of keeping the notes, and I don't wanna let anything fall. How would you know it's a private road? Truthfully, that varies from the sophistication of the buyer, the broker. Normally, it's disclosed to you. And in the several regions where I've been, the financing institutions normally require a certification from the town. In fact, in my most recent community, if it's a private road, the bank will not finance it without a letter as to who's responsible for the snow and ice control. So it's a real mixed bag because lawyers don't think to tell you. Brokers don't necessarily think to tell you. Buyers don't necessarily think about it.
Especially if the
So
town's taking
that's
care
a
of it.
mixed bag.
Well, when you hear road, you don't think it's private.
And when the town's doing all the work for it, why would you even ask?
I understand the town has 80 miles of accepted road and approximately 20 miles of unaccepted road.
We don't know that.
I understand.
They built the road.
So why wouldn't we have been notified earlier in the situation before it's gonna be red listed?
So, because this is generally the process, at the end of the plowing season, April, that's in each town where I've sat with the public works director, or in this case, the foreman, and that's when the letters go out.
In the span of 1 year, it's gone from being acceptable to being unacceptable?
No.
No?
When we moved in,
Unfortunately, this is the first year that the town has followed this procedure.
we bought our house in 2016 and that structure was failing then. 2 months after we moved in, there was a sinkhole that they patched. Bigger than what it is now, and it's only gonna get bigger.
I hear you, and I'm taking it in.
When we looked at our house to buy, they were cutting trees back. How would we know it was a private road when the town of Templeton is cutting trees?
I hear what you're asking me. and I have thoughts, but frankly, and I will put this forward to town council, but I need to be honest with you that my number one job is to protect the towns legally.
And then,
So frankly, even if I think something's wrong, sometimes it's my job to keep it to myself
need to talk to
until I
somebody
sort
else.
it all out.
wow.
Yeah, we're in touch with a lawyer.
So it's our job to protect our families
Yes.
and our friends who come, so then maybe we need to take the town to court, because this is ridiculous. Have you did research on all this information we gave you tonight, cause you didn't have any of it? So how long did you take?
That's
How
not
long
true
did
at
you
all.
take? Did you go through that? How long did you take?
I
You've been
spent-
here 2 years and you didn't know what was going on? We're giving you information and documents that you don't know about, so I think we have a leg to stand on. And I think if we all chip in, we could turn around and sue the town of Templeton,
If that's your choice,
because
then
you guys
you
are
need to do that. You
illegally
need-
wrong.
You need to do what you feel is right for you, and if that's what you feel is right, then you need to do that.
You know, maybe we don't pay our taxes, we all sell our houses, let them go into foreclosure.
Then you take our land if we don't pay our taxes.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
They- they sing a different song
It's
if we
crazy.
had the option of
holding our taxes.
Or maybe you allow me to do what I've told you I will do, which is you give me the time that I put a timeline on, and I've spent quite a bit of time with these files. These are no more fun for me sitting up here. You know, I don't go down a highway and so what's the hottest hornet nest I can poke this year? I understand much of what has been said, but there are some things that I've heard that aren't in the record, and those are good for me to know.
But you know what, for once in this town, why don't you go to bat for us? Why don't you go to bat for us? Because we haven't been up to bat in a while.
I'm trying to sort out what we can do legally within the resources that we have.
Because it doesn't sound like you're gonna give us a pretty good.
How much revenue they get from 26 houses worth at $4,000 a year?
Sir, I hear what you're saying. I have my personal thoughts on rights and wrong, and I also have my legal requirements of my job.
So
I
what's
will
your
do
personal
all that I
thoughts?
can. I
Right,
can
so-
do it, and you know it.
I got a question for you, sir. So you invited us all here tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
However, I don't understand what the point of gathering the entire neighborhood was. Cause you don't seem like you were prepared for any of our questions. And it's all, well, I'll go either back to the town lawyer, or I'm gonna ask this Lori. You just keep throwing out different names, so I don't understand what the point of getting everybody here was tonight.
Well, first,
Nothing, I don't think you were gonna resolve any of our issues.
no, this isn't gonna be resolved easily. It's been flopping in the breeze for 14 plus, 15 plus years. We're not gonna fix this in 2 weeks.
Right, but I think if you were having a meeting, you should have had some information for us other than, well, you really don't have a leg to stand on, and yes, we were on your road illegally.
And you're protecting the
That's all
town
I
of
got.
Templeton, that's all you want.
I
Chip
believe
laid
I-
out 4 options. He sent out, he had a letter that was included in our thing. He laid out 4 options. You don't even have any options except to go to town council. You know, at least we have options
I
of
have,
pay
I
for
have
ourselves.
several options, not, which I've all laid out, none of which work well in the near term. They range from a full betterment to a bylaw that will allow the town to make certain improvements. Those are the 2 that are the strongest ones, but they take time.
And neither one of those help us get plowed this year.
They don't, which is why we're gonna have to see if there is something that we can do within the statutes, within resources that we have available, to try to help buy some time while we sort the rest of it out. And I spent quite a bit of time on these files, ma'am. I'm sorry if you don't feel like I knew anything coming in here. Some of this was new information. Some of it is not. Yes, sir.
I think, I can't speak
Excuse
for
me,
everybody.
could I have your name?
My name is Bill Wonka. and I
Thank you,
live
Bill.
at 75 Laurel View. We've been there for 20-plus years. And I agree with you. I think all of us, I can't answer for everybody, but for myself, I'd like to see what you come up with. Give you the rights, put it all together, and then we'll all meet again. Because we're all just getting all heated and all angry and upset, and I just think you have your proposal, you wanna bring it back, let's see what happens with it then. That's mine,
That's fair. I second.
and I think that's fair.
Any other questions for tonight? Yes, ma'am.
What about chapter 90 funds?
Can't use chapter 90 funds on an unaccepted street. And you can't use chapter 90 funds for a betterment. And the town gets, only about $320,000 a year in chapter 90 monies, which truthfully, to reconstruct your road, probably wouldn't even cover the ticket. The bylaw that allows temporary repairs in private way may be, if we can figure out this winter, a bylaw in the fall or next spring, and then have to figure out where to get the money, that's another issue, is probably the shortest term, fastest fix that we could find, if we can find the extra money.
In the meantime, we're still good to have plow service.
If we can figure, my objective would be to try to figure out how we can address this winter. Now, maybe we can do something above and beyond the $1,200. I don't think we can do it all, quite frankly. To raise and lower a structure is about $400 apiece. That's,
Pay for one.
okay. But to reset a structure is about $400. If we have enough of them, if we don't only have a few, the price goes up, but let's take a step back and see what we can maybe come up with. Yes, ma'am. Your name, please?
Sandra DeLulio.
Thank you, Sandra.
76, Longview. May I ask who built that road? We have people here who were at a town meeting when Conrad Donnell walked in and said, "Great news, the engineers are coming next week. The road's going to be done." Whoever led the meeting said, "Like hell you are. You are fired. You're out. Our guys are gonna build the road." And Conrad said, if you let that man with no engineering experience build that road, it will crumble within 1 to 2 years. And then they asked him how much money he was gonna put in the road, and they took that. Witnesses at that town meeting, and they said they never went back again because they were so disgusted. Harry, I was uptown for a function, which Templeton has a lot of. We went into the Historical Society.
Up on the Common?
Yes, and this man came up to me and said, "Well, you people are new faces. Do you live in Templeton?" And I said, "Yes, we do." "Well, where do you live?" And I said, "On Laurel View Road." And that man went, "I built your road." And when I mentioned that in the assessor's office, the two women got very frightened. They said, "Oh God, that must be Harry." That must be Harry. We now have his last name. I don't think he's certifiably insane. I think he worked on the town road department. And he was very proud that he built Laurel View Road.
I don't
Sorry.
have that institutional knowledge.
Sorry.
I mean, I know as of May 4 of 2004, the planning board was still asking for as-bills for the roadway. Because they hadn't been provided or were
Done
unacceptable.
by Boucher, Ed Boucher.
Okay. Is there anything else for tonight? Okay. So let me tell,
I got a question.
sure.
Scott Hastings, 24 Laurel View
Yes,
Road.
Scott.
Isn't it the town's responsibility to make sure our road is passable at all times for emergency vehicles, ambulances, fire department? I mean, if you don't plow our road and somebody needs an ambulance and they die because they couldn't get an ambulance up there because
And
the
you're
road
paying for
wasn't
that
plowed.
EMT.
Now, who's responsible for that? Isn't town of Templeton liable?
Not in
Kids can't-
Massachusetts.
Kids
Oh,
can't
really?
go to school.
I tend to differ on that.
Me too.
I mean, you plow that road for 23 years or 20-something years, and then we get some potholes, and all of a sudden you just say, that's it, you're shut off. You guys gotta come up with the money to repair the holes? I mean, that just sounds stupid. I mean, you gotta
The
build new
letters-
fire trucks down there.
The
You gotta
letters
build
are
an
never
ambulance
well
down there.
received.
I mean, there's kids that live on that road. I mean, you
No
have to make
school,
that road passable
no
in the
job.
wintertime,
Yeah.
whether we fix it or not.
These letters are never well received. I've never been to a neighborhood meeting where somebody came in and thanked me for sending them a red list letter. But I will tell you this. Absent these letters, these issues never get addressed. Highway just keeps doing it, it just keeps getting worse. The equipment gets damaged, the men get hurt.
What about our kids?
So this has
That was my
at
point.
least,
Last time somebody
No
got hurt 'cause they hit a
EMTs,
pothole.
no fire
Big
trucks.
truck. I mean,
Some people
just
die.
lift the plow a little bit, leave a couple inches on there, we don't care.
That's what they've done for the last 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ambulances gotta be able to get down our street in the wintertime. They have to.
Especially since we have to pay $187.50
we got
each
them
year for
EMTs
for
now.
perpetuity for that
Yeah.
privilege.
I mean, what's our homeowner's insurance gonna say? I mean, oh, you got no fire department?
Right.
Zero? I mean, that don't make any sense. You gotta plow that. You gotta make it passable.
There really has to be an effort. I mean, there has been no effort by the town, there has to be an effort by the town. There has to be.
I find that these meetings often kickstart a discussion, which leads to solutions in some cases. Right now, I have another road, not as bad as yours, but it has a large rock outcropping right in the middle of the road. Absent the letter, that rock would still be there this winter to be hit by the plow. So, yes, ma'am.
It's my belief that because the planning board accepted the road and it was signed off to the planning board, and the selectmen also approved the road back in '04 and '05, I believe that it was relayed to the highway department that this was going to be a town road, and that's why it was always continued to be plowed and taken care of, because it was always assumed that it was going to be put on warrant and accepted, and I don't think anyone had any other idea that it wasn't going to be put on a warrant, and I think that's why it was always plowed, maintained, everything was always done, it was always an illegal maintenance, because I think they always knew that it was going to be a town road, it was intended to be a town road. And I believe that's why they always did what they did. We had a man who lived in our development who was on, the light department? Mike?
Yep.
Mike
On the
Wiley.
light department, who has since passed away, but he was always very vocal for our, development. As far as, just talking with the town departments, telling them what was going on down there, and, but he's no longer with us, but, so anyway, that's what I believe had happened as far as having this illegal maintenance done, is because they believed that we were a town road, because that was the intention.
May I just follow up with Mike Wiley? When Daviani and Marcus moved in, he came over to introduce himself, and he said where he lived and what his job was. And he said, I went to town hall to say, there's no sign on our road, I want a sign. And, they said, okay, it's Laurel View. Tell us, Mr. Wiley, what would you like to name that road? Me? Yes. All
I'm
right.
sorry, I
And,
shouldn't chuckle.
and he said, Laurel View Lane. I'm sorry, Mr. Wiley, but we do have rules here. Terms such as lane, circle, whatever, those are for private roads. Your road is a public road. Your two choices are Laurel View Street or Laurel View Road. And he verbalized that to us. He's not a liar. So he went with Laurel View Road, Town Road.
Here's
Did the
what,
town build any part of that road?
not that I'm aware of, other than perhaps
There's gotta be
the repairs
records
for
of
the
it.
first,
Harry Aldrich
in the
did.
first
There has to be
100.
records. If it's-
Harry did.
Like Harry was saying.
No, sir, you cannot assume that there are records in this community of things that have happened over time.
So the rules only apply when we're getting screwed. That's pretty much what you're saying.
I think you need to recognize that the community has not paid for sufficient staff of sufficient competence to understand and observe all of the statutes, and then kept the kinds of records, maintenance logs, work orders that perhaps an organization you might have worked for would keep.
Understand what you're
That-
saying
that-
right
that's-
there, but
that's
what you're
simply-
saying also
that
is
simply
we're
doesn't
left
happen.
holding the bag.
That's not what I've said, sir. So,
Yeah, you are.
here is what I am going to say. Here are my takeaways from tonight. One, nobody's happy. I think we pretty well accept that. Second, I am going to get the date of acceptance of Chapter 40, Section 6C, which is the statute that allows the community, subject to appropriation and designation by the Select Board, to provide snow and ice control on private ways. Second, I'm going to ask the assessing department, Luann, to put together a FAQ explanation of assessments on private roads versus public roads. Third, I am going to put together the timeline as best I can construct them from these various files, and put that to town council, together with some references to maintenance that has been done over certain periods of time, and ask him what liability, if any, does he feel that we have from our actions or inactions at any point in time. I'm gonna try to get all this accomplished in 6 weeks, and I will meet with you again. And that stone will fall where that stone falls.
I thought you said 3 weeks before.
I need to get the letter out to him. He needs some time to respond, and once I have his answer, I need to be able to get a letter out to you all.
You were gonna ask for
So-
a response within 2 weeks,
I have to write the 3,
so that's 5 weeks.
yes.
He did say August 1st.
And then I would like to get a letter out to you all inviting you to a meeting. Minimum amount of time I would want to get that notice out to you, 1 week. 3 + 2 + 1 is 6 weeks, ma'am.
Well, you didn't mention the 1 week that you were gonna get it out to us.
Okay.
Steve Foisey, 13 Laurel View Road.
So-
At any point, the package that you're preparing or shortly thereafter, will we receive anything from the town for short-term actions or items and costs? You know, responsible by the town or responsible by the residents of Laurel
I
View?
really need to see what town council advises me so we can determine what, if anything, we could legally do. From there, I can look at what that might take and where can I possibly find those dollars. Frankly, they aren't in the budget. It's gonna take a little while to try to thread this needle if we can. Okay? Anything else we can try to do tonight? Yes, ma'am. Can you give me your name, please? Darlene Webb, yes, ma'am.
41. I think you said that you didn't have sufficient records, like maybe not the paid staff or the records to say whether the road is private versus public. So shouldn't there be a record of whether it was still private and whether it became public? Like, shouldn't there be records?
I was referring to maintenance activities on the road.
Well, let's go back to whether it's private or public. Shouldn't we get to see an actual record?
It's not a single record. This road is private. This road is public.
Regardless, like, we need to see legal.
Sure, you can come and see him anytime. Just give us a call.
No, but can you provide it, maybe in the information you're giving us? Because there's been a lot of, some debate here, hasn't it been, over whether it's actually private versus public and what really happened? So when you put the other information in for the 6 weeks, could you photocopy?
No, ma'am. I'm not gonna have the time to piece it all together, because it's not just one document that says, it is one document that says it's public, but it's not one document that disproves it's public. It is a collection of everything that's in here, plus some stuff that's elsewhere. And you're all welcome to come in, call the Development Services Office, give us a day's notice, we'll get the records out for you. You're welcome to go through them. If I have the time, I'll take as much time in my office as I can with you to tell you what I know and to share with you the documents that I can access. Unfortunately, ma'am, that's not the way it works. There's one single vote if it's public. The town meeting vote on Lafayette, it's one single vote, and I can guarantee you, within 6 years, if you go to search the files, the odds are you won't find it unless you know where to look for it.
So can you tell me where to look for it?
This one, what you have to do right now is you have to go, for most everything, you have to go back to the year in which you think something happened, and you get the books out and you start reading forward. And please believe me, if I had a vote on the record that this was a public road that I had been able to find, we wouldn't be having this meeting tonight. I'd still be scratching my head how to pay to fix your road, but we wouldn't be having this particular meeting. Is there anything else we can try to do tonight? Does everybody understand the things I'm gonna try to do over the next 6 weeks? Okay. Now, on the same hand, you need to think about it. If you wanna sue the town, you need to think about it. And if there are gonna be some monies that are needed, some short-term improvements that are needed, and some or all of that money needs to come from you all while we try to get a longer-term solution, you need to be thinking and talking with each other about that as well. Okay? Thank you very much for.
Know that as soon as possible.
I'll do my best, sir.
Thank you.
That's all I can do. Thank you very much for, I know this wasn't fun, but thank you very much for sharing some of your evening with me and your thoughts and your concerns and the research some of you have done, okay? Have a good evening, folks.